There is no doubt that the scripting of television is different from radio. As you know that television is an audio visual medium and radio is a audio medium. So there is a stark difference between the radio scripting and television scripting. So lot of care has to be exercised while writing the script for radio and television. The broadcast writing style for television is different from radio. Since the mediums are different, the scripts are also different. Radio is a medium of audio, whereas television is an audio-visual medium. When it comes to the writing styles, to create an effective program, scripts are different in terms of scenes and sequences, characterizations, dialogue, stress and pause, creativity and visual sense. On the front of scenes and sequences, radio is a medium of audio which involves with the hearing scenes of listeners. On the other hand, a television script is based on the visuals and sound. When it comes to characterization, script for radio accommodates a limited number of characters at a time and it can avoid confusion in the minds of listeners. On the contrary, it is not limited in case of television. As you know that number of characters in a script in a given scene, radio is very limited, whereas it is not the same for television. In television script, if the story demands, there can be above 8 or 9 characters in a scene. In terms of television, a dialogue creates the scene of picture in the minds of listeners. Adding unnecessary words in radio script may deteriorate the quality of programs. However, viewers can experience the body and facial movements and non-verbal communication from the characters. There is no doubt the visual scene to be created through script for radio is different from that of television. It is required to know how television news is different from radio news. Now let us discuss how radio news is different from television news. As you know that writing for television news is different from radio news. The basic fundamental lies in the fact that television is an audiovisual medium and radio is an audio medium. So there is a difference in terms of scripting, be it radio news or television news, be it radio program or the television program. Let us understand, let us point out one by one what are the differences. Keep the radio news small and short, tell a short story. It should be small in content and effective in packaging for the acceptance of the listeners. It is not required to use quotes in radio scripts. Ranking of radio stories remain important. One has to carry important stories first. There are other stories which you can use and they might not be so important. There are stories which can be used for multiple reasons. The radio news start with a short introduction, close with headlines. It is essential to close the headlines to remind the listeners of stories which they can heard them before. Now let us understand how we are going to write television news for any news channel. Television news occupies an important space in television programs. Since the presentation news happens instantly with the occurring of events, it is essential to comprehend easily on the parts of the audience. Television news occupies a greater significance in television programs. Since news is very instant and rapid, the scripting has to be done side by side and it should be also timely maintained to grab the attention of the audience. Do not use more amount of words rather than use them judiciously. Use more amounts of pictures and sound for effective storytelling. Attempt to keep up the pace of news writing. Try to make the storytelling newsworthy. The structure of the news story should be apt and appealing. The sound and visuals should be cohesively used. Use active verbs. The sound and the picture should be cohesively maintained. Both should match to each other so that it will grab the attention of the viewers. Any distortion in the cohesion or maintaining the visuals and sound will make a repelling impact on the minds of audiences. Use active verbs in the script. Do not use symbols, use present tense. Do not use numbers unnecessarily. If you are using the numbers, round up the numbers, because using lot of numbers, not rounding up the numbers may create distortion in the minds of the viewers. Clarity must be maintained, but not at the cost of brevity. Brevity should be placed at the first priority. The lead in television news starts with the location. For example, The anchor may start by saying in New Delhi by showing the location. Regina Acholono asserts, in television news, everyone is a writer. The reporter does not simply gather facts or write words at the typewriter, nor does the photographer merely take pictures or the editor simply join scenes. In television news, the role of reporters, anchors and photographers are equally important. None of the works should be undermined at any cost. There is a partnership of storytelling skills and talents which contribute equally in reaching out to touch television viewers. Only when the reporter, photographer and editor understand the interrelationship of their respective skills, and only when they work to understand each other and to think like one another can the great potential of television news be realized. Now let us understand and discuss the basic format of a television script. The basic format of a television news channel, which is generally practiced in the field of journalism. It is also essential to know the format of television news story. It is not good to incorporate copy editing symbols. The news script should be typed in double spaces so that correction can be exercised between the lines. It should be ready and comply with the television news in all respect. These are the basic layouts and guidelines how we can maintain, how we can develop the basic format of a television news. As we know that a script for television is different from scripting from a film. So there are glaring instances how a script is different from a television to a film. So now discuss what are those glaring differences. Why the scripting is different from a television to a film. Let's understand and discuss. Writing for television as well as writing for film are not two different things in terms of mechanics of script writing. They look similar on paper as both contain locations details, scene and shot description with audio details and the character details. However, in totality, the television and films are two different mediums of mass media. In terms of production, the processes are quite different. The major difference between the two can be seen in the light of author theory. In television, director is responsible only for shooting the shots according to the script. The rest of the things are handled respectively by different members of the team. Television writers are not only responsible for developing stories or writing scripts, but also they have to make the edits and revisions and help determine what an episode looks like. The writer becomes author. However, the film is a director's medium where the director is author of the project. Script writer is responsible for a narrative story with a proper detail of character, time, location, audio and costume details along with suggested shot size and other details of the script. In terms of length of the production, television writing is essentially a continuous work. Television shows are commonly televised in multiple episodes. So, they are written in episodic forms. The episodes of television shows are generally 30 minutes long with 2 or 3 commercial breaks. Television shows are written according to these breaks so that the audience may not distract with the breaks. Each episode of a television product is generally a part of a broad narrative which allows multiple characters with multiple beginnings along with their different stories. These episodes separately have their beginnings, middles, ends in terms of narrative structure with a clear link of the larger narrative of the story. Television shows written must be more reiterative and constantly bringing back the key facts of the story because people are constantly being distracted when watching television. Because of these multiple characters and their multiple stories, television writing is generally a collaborative work where a set of writers have to continue work on different characters and stories. So these are the basic layout of a television program. Now we are going to discuss how the scripting for film is different from a television program. Why and how the script can be effective. What should be the basic layout of a script for a film that we are going to discuss now. Opposite to television writing, film writing is different in terms of narrative structure with a fixed beginning, middle and the end of limited characters and stories in a fixed time frame. A film commonly has 3-act structure where any goal must be resolved within a fixed time frame or more or less than 110 minutes, whereas a television show has a 4 to 7 act structure which can take several seasons to get to the goal of a larger narrative. Because of this linearity, films are generally written by a single writer. Films are generally seen on larger screens in comparison to television, so here shots of visuals become important. In film writing, the writer has to specify the shot size, whether it is long, middle or close shot. Television writing does not need much detail of shot description and shot in a fixed form shot, because in terms of aspect ratios, television has generally smaller scenes.